Chairman, let's go.
Okay, I'm going to call to order the Loudon County Commission meeting for October 5th, 2020. First up is Jim Jenkins with 2 zoning resolutions.
Everybody listen close, because we're not gonna read them again.
No, we're not.
Thank you. So the first one's a resolution amending the zoning map of Loudon County, Tennessee pursuant to Chapter 7, 13-7-105 of the Tennessee Code Annotated to rezone approximately 32.4 acres from R1 PUD Suburban Residential District with a planned unit development overlay to A2 Rural Residential District, Highway 411 Tax Map 084 parcels 044.00 situated in the 3rd Legislative District.
Okay, the next one.
Next item. This is a resolution, the Loudon County Commission accepting Fieldstone Drive, Millstone Lane, Greystone Court, and Cobblestone Drive, Flagstone Boulevard, located in Stone Crossing subdivision into the public roadway system. Said road is located in the 5th Legislative District of Loudon County, Tennessee.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you all.
We'll vote on those under number 7 on the agenda. Anyone from the public wish to speak for or against either one of these? Okay, we'll close the public comments on the zoning resolutions. I've asked Commissioner Duff to open the meeting.
Please rise for the pledge and the prayer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening to ask your forgiveness and to seek your directions and guidance. We give thanks that we live in a country where we can assemble and be about our country, our county's business. We ask your blessings on each person here this evening. May our actions be representative of your teachings. We also pray for those in harm's way. May your presence be felt. We also ask thy blessings on the citizens of Loudon County and our nation and our respective leaders, including our president. Teach us how to love each other in life, in death, in life beyond death. Thou art Lord. Praise be your name. Amen.
Tammy, call the roll.
Lister. Here.
Here.
Early. Here. Tinker. Satterfield.
Here.
Whitfield.
Here.
Coleman.
Here.
Duff.
Here.
Shaver.
Here.
Waller.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt or change the commission agenda tonight.
Mr. I do have the, answer, filling questions whether or not commission chooses to vote tonight about the jail entrance and the quote we have for it, as well as a grant I'd like to have added from Homeland Security. This is a no match when we get every year. They just don't have any technical timings with it. The Police Commission would like to add in. It's a $17,000 no match grant.
Okay, we'll put that under 2 and 3 under your name there.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other changes?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to accept the September 8th, 2020 Loudon County Commission meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next up is general public comments. First up is Rich Ainsley.
Thank you, Henry. I spent the last 14, 16 hours going over the information that was provided to you all for the joint meeting with Loudon, North City, and the Commission, that 6 out of the 10 of you attended, and attached to the email of September 29th was the Santec operating agreement, Loudon County Solid Waste Commission Santec second final amendment draft, and a summary of the proposed information. The summary was a single page. The draft is like 20 pages. So anything I talk about here tonight will come directly from one of those 3 documents. I have some major concerns with what was presented to you. I have some major concerns with what's going on with the landfill. Aside from the fact that Republic Service is buying it, and has been since January, some of the statements that were made by the Santec personnel during that meeting I found to be a little less than truthful. They say that, according to Kevin Stevens, that back in February, when this first was published, that Republic Service was buying them, that Kevin said, oh, don't worry about that. That's just some kind of thing that goes on in business, the world these days. And some of you might remember on Memorial Day weekend, I sent you all an email with a link that said it was supposed to close in the second quarter. Well, it didn't quite do it in the second quarter. They're now saying before the end of the year. A couple of statements that the CEO said that they're only taking in 2.4 million. The last 4 or 5 years, I've counted 3 million. The split is 90-10. They get 3 million, we get 300,000. If you didn't like the first contract, I don't think you should like the second amendment, and here's why. As far as the land usage, 41 acres are being expanded to 67.2. This is within the confines of the original landfill, with only 53 of those 67 slated to be filled. So that's an additional 12 acres over the 41, but they're asking to permit 26.2 over the 41. So why are we putting down 67.2? What's the purpose of it? Unless there's something further out. Contract extension. Contract is extended to an earlier date that Santec fills the amended footprint on or before December 31st, 2038. 2038 is an 11-year extension to the 2027 current contract. But Santec says they expect to fill that extra 12 acres by 2035, 3 years earlier. So there's 2 dates that are purported in the summary, that are purported into the contract, that do not rhyme between them. So why is the contract being extended for 3 more years about 2035 if they're going to be done at 2038, if they're going to be done at 2035? Elevation. This has been a bone of contention since I ever started going to these meetings. The elevation of the current cells that are filled when you go up into the thing, everything on the left until you get back to where they're open, is at 1,070 feet. For years, I've heard that the original contract says close as you go. For years, Santec said no. For years, they're still saying they'll close them eventually. And they'll close them to the 1125, or they're now conceding that it would be 1,093. Three numbers, 1070, 1,093, and 1125. What number is their stated final height? And why do we have to keep talking about the same thing over and over for the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? The contract that was originally written specifically addresses that, saying close as you go. So what is Centex closure obligations? All 53 acres, the 41 plus the 12, are stated to cost $9 million to close. The math says that that's $170,000 per acre to get to $9 million. But it also has been previously stated $125,000 in today's cost. Don't do the CPI, don't do 3% annual, don't do this other garbage. Why are we closing the first 14 at 125 at a $50,000 savings? Nobody seems to be able to answer that question. And they said they'd start closing in 2029. 2 years past the existence of the current contract. I'll come back to that in a minute. If phase one cells are not going to be added to anymore, in other words, the elevation, you go up above the 1170, then why aren't they being closed now? And at the reduced cost of 125 versus 170. Why are we waiting another 9 years to get this done? To me, that is illogical and makes no sense. Unless the 125 or the 175 are really not true numbers. They also state the closure to be spread out as follows in this new amended contract. 12.9 would be done by 2025. Wait a minute, they just said 2029. Oh, there's 2025, 4 years earlier. 11.6, 2034. Oh, 1 year before they're done. 8.6, 2036. A year past when they're done. 8.5 at the end of the contract. December 31st, 2038. For a total of 41.6 acres. And the final 10.3 acres will not be closed, according to that amended contract, until 9 months after the contract is done. Now, where in the hell are they gonna be 9 months after that contract's over? They're gonna be hanging out over here on 72, waiting to close that down? Or are they gonna be long gone? Nice question. Post-closure responsibility isn't it obvious that as long as Centex is on site as the operator, that they shall maintain, shall is the operable word in the contract, maintain all of the cells whether or not they have been closed or not. In other words, anything that happens to those first 41 acres in the next 10 years, 20 years, any slide, and there's been one, I think there's a major one, or like the one that we had over at Poplar Springs on the corner, is their responsibility, and it should be. They're the operator. It's written in the contract. Any expense associated with closure, post-closure, cost are theirs. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's straightforward and easy to read. And should we ever terminate that contract, as was suggested by the people from Loudon City, before 2027, shouldn't they have complied with the original obligation of close as you go? In other words, of that 41, why aren't the ones that are filled right now closed and paid for? Post fee increase. This one is really good. I like this one. How is a 0.75%? Got it? 0.75% 3/4 of 8%, gonna generate $3 million or more. When the gross revenue is only $3 million, if you multiply that out, it only achieves $22,500 a year. They're telling you, oh, trust us, we're gonna give you $150,000 on top of what we give you today. I'm sorry, I basic math in grade school could figure this one out. It isn't true. Where's the other $127,500 a year gonna come from? I don't know, and that contract doesn't tell you. And when does that magnanimous 0.75% take effect? Is it in 2021? And if so, 150K for 14 years would be 2.1 million. Certainly not the 6 million that's been bannered about in the summary. You can find these numbers in there, I read them. They do not add. Never will, know how. And remember, folks, we own 120 acres approximately, I think it's 116 next to it. It's the borrow pit. Geocentech did a study back in 2013 which preceded this contract amendment and said they will borrow 1.2 million cubic yards of dirt. Think about that. 1.2 million cubic yards. It's 50% more dirt than you'll find on the other side of the Tellico Bridge going across the river when they built that all up. That was 875,000. This is 1.2 million. That's gonna leave a hell of a big hole in that 120. I've stated that before. It's about 60 feet deep across 70 or 80 of those acres. Well, what do you do with that land when we're all said and done? Or is it the setup to continue the landfill for another 30, 40, 50 years? And why the stated 150 per year is supposed to pay for the 1.15 million that we paid for that 120 acres? Well, if you're not getting it, how do you pay for it? And why is it only worth 1.1 million? When Geocentech said $7 to $9 a cubic yard. Do the math. $1 million times 7 is 7 million. All of that is covered either in the Geocentech report from July 2013, covered by state TCAs, and I could cite them here because I looked them up. And this closure schedule that they're putting forth, which I read to you a little bit ago, 2025, 2034, 2036, 2038, and 9 months after that, doesn't follow what was in the original contract. Close as you go. And you wouldn't be facing a $9 million shortfall at the end of either contract, the 27 or the 38. Also in that Geocentech, they had the CEO in there. The payment of the security fee shall not relieve the contractor of any of its obligation for closure, post-closure care under the agreement. Clearly stated. However, Santec does not, will not close any modules within phase 2-4. That's the ones leading up to the extra 12 you want to put in place. Santec indicated that the major permit modification would decrease the closure, post-closure cost on a cubic yard basis. I'd like to see that math. The new cover system specified in the major permit modification will reduce the closure cost according to Santec. Again, where's the math? Where's the chart? Where's the essentials that go into what is closure? And Santec is willing to partner with the Solid Waste Commission to maximize airspace and minimize closure costs. What does maximize airspace mean? 1070, 1091, or 12? I don't know. This is a chart that I got from them, which is what a typical cell looks like, how deep you have to make it, how lined you have to have it, what kind of egress you need to have for water and leachate, and how you fill it as you come up to grade. It also shows you what the cover is. $125,000 an acre, which is 44,000 square feet, is about $3 a square foot for closure. What's included in that $3 a square foot? I know there's a liner, I know there's topsoil, and I know there's vegetation. It just doesn't add. So my recommendation to you as a commission, and I would do the same for Loudon City and North City, I wouldn't sign this addendum until after, number one, Republic takes over. Republic is the second largest waste management company in the country. My stepson worked for them for 5 years. He ran the waste system, he ran the landfill system. He left there, went to a bank, ran a transfer station, left there, went to Covanta up in Maryland, and ships 65 high-cube rail cars a day out of Montgomery County, which is the greater Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C. area. Henry should be familiar with it. 65 high-cube rail cars a day, 120 miles northwest to a cogeneration facility. So when the CEO or anybody tells you shipping waste more than 50 miles is not economically feasible, that's a bunch of hooey. They have a way, or they wouldn't be doing it. Republic will be a completely different animal for us to deal with. We have in this contract a 150-mile radius. Take a look at the state of Tennessee. Long rectangle, right? Up in the northeast corner is Bristol. Directly south of us is Chattanooga. To our west is Nashville. So if you got a 150-mile radius, how far does that extend below Chattanooga? About 40, 50, 60, 70 miles into Georgia. The stated purpose of Republic buying it was to bring Atlanta trash here. Now the contract says, oh, we're only going to have Tennessee trash. I submit to you that if you've got a waste hauling contract down in Chattanooga or in Bristol, remember Bristol is two places, Tennessee and Virginia. Chattanooga sits right on the Georgia border. If you're a waste hauler down there, are you going to separate Georgia and Tennessee trash? Are you going to separate Virginia and Tennessee trash? That 50-mile radius is severely truncated on the south and on the west and on the north. Over towards the east or the west, you can go past all the way out to Nashville. There's things stated in that amendment that leave me cold. And I've negotiated a lot of contracts in my 31 years at Ford. I would never sign a contract that has all of these wiring holes in it, that leaves you stone cold to interpretation, which is exactly what they've done for the last 14 years. But it's up to you.
Richard, these are, all these things are gonna be addressed at workshop too, because we're not making any kind of vote tonight.
I know that.
Okay, we're gonna talk about it again at workshop too.
Well, I'm really interested in two things. Some of you weren't there, so you didn't get the first hand. Now, there is a video, it takes an hour and 40-some odd minutes to watch it.
Were you
We'll try
there?
sometimes.
Were you there?
Huh?
Were you there?
No.
The meeting?
No.
Well, I didn't think I saw you.
No, I watched the video last night and this morning. I watched you speak, I watched Coach speak, Henry said a few words. Mr. Duff didn't say anything, except one thing. Mr. Mears said a few. Kelly, of course, was up on the DS, because she's at solid waste, too. The two people that sat over here, Ben Johnson and his boss, when the folks from Loudon started talking about, well, maybe we'd like to run it like they used to, the CEO was sitting there shaking his head. No, 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 because you could feel the money flying out of his pocket. He refinanced Santec, and Santec is not here in Chattanooga. They're in 8 states. It's a fairly good-sized company. He refinanced over $250 million in the last 3 years. So you tell me how much he's getting for this.
He cleared the last things I saw off the internet, he cleared $120 million, I believe, in the first quarter of last year. That's all that I could find on the internet currently. But you look at Republic is a $6.2 billion industry. I brought that out.
Right. I can remember you bringing it up. And you asked some pretty good questions about what is the profit here?
I've got some more.
The CEO said the max they got was 2.4 million. And there's not very much profit.
Well, the first day it started out lower, and I'm sitting back there, and said it was barely 2 million.
Right.
You know, and then it went up a little bit to 2.5, and then we were close to 3 before the meeting was over.
Right.
But, you know, when we were questioned about that, he said, well, we did barely made $2 million, you know, a profit off of the landfill. But like I said, that kind of crept up the more times we asked questions.
I've said this before. Go over to Loudon landfill, count noses. You'd be hard pressed to find 10 people. Now, you got backup people down at the courtroom. A woman that comes and prepares all the reports, you got a bookkeeper that's entering all the tickets, creating the charts and graphs. But let's say you got 10 people and you're paying them $100,000 a year. That's $1 million. Where's the other $2 million go? Don't tell me depreciation on equipment. Don't tell me depreciation on building, because there isn't any. Don't tell me that the wheel wash that costs $400,000 and we're supposed to pay half of it, right, Kelly?
We're not.
We're not. But if you read the language in there, they're using that or a suggestion that we pave the outside from that wheel wash, so we don't grab all the dust and dirt after you go through the wheel wash and track it back out on the road, as an alternative to the bond. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's really strange to sit on the sidelines, knowing what I know in contract, and read this thing and go, I have more questions than I have answers. And I'm not being critical, Kelly. I think you and the guys that were there tried your damnedest, but you sure seem to be getting outfoxed.
This is the Solid Waste Commission, again, puts us at the mercy of the state. Just like a couple other things, you know, the state said you have to set one up, and once you do, guess who has total control over contracts and everything else with solid waste? Because we don't.
I know.
The Solid Waste Commission is the one that.
But I think, Coach, you brought it up in the meeting. Well, maybe it was Van. The real stakeholders in this, me, Pat,
Right.
the rest of us taxpayers in the county, because if all of this falls apart, goes to hell in a handbasket, and we own about $6 or $7 million, whether we've got a guarantee through the state or not, or a bond through them or not, it's gonna fall back on us.
Here's what bothers me about Republic, if they end up with it being the number 2 in the country, is the fact that, you know, we have a contract, but there's, like I said, how many billions of dollars they generate? Thing is if they want to, they can ignore any part of the contract, and like I said, they'll outlaw you any day of the week. They'll spend those billions of dollars, and like I said, you know, if it's, well, you're bringing in trash that's more than 150 miles. So what? You know, that's what, you know, those things, when you surrender control of what goes on in your county to people outside of I don't think they would have Loudon County's best interest at heart. It is a business, and their business is to make as much money as they can.
That's right.
And like I said, when they sell, and we've got a huge company that runs it, I don't know that there'll be anything to do that you can make them honor it. They can say, well, sue us, and then we're sitting here, do we want to spend taxpayers' money paying lawyers to go to court over something that we'd never be able to win? You know, I'm like you, there are more questions about it than whatever, but.
And we're gonna have another chance to talk about it.
We really are gonna have a long conversation, this is the workshop.
The
in 2
workshop
weeks.
will be October 19th.
That's, I mean, this is gonna be covered at length.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Rich.
No,
Now,
you're
now,
fine.
remember everything you said tonight, because you don't get to say it again, you've used up that time, that's over.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring out a point. With a $6.2 billion industry, their shares were at $94 week before last. In 2008, I believe that Republic Law Alliance, it made them at that time the second, and with the merger of Santec, and I'm not making accusations, I'm looking at big business. Are they going to make that a bargaining tool to make that company really ideal for waste management to come in and buy so more people can make money?
Sure. That's
Let
perception.
me ask you a question, about tipping fees, and he takes his treating them somewhere else. We've asked for years to put in a cell. TDEX approved that cell. Santec has never wanted to do it. Why are they setting the fees when the contract says we set them? But we've done it for 10 years. So you've got past practice that's gonna get away. And you go after them, they'll stuff that right up your ear. Because past practice in a contract violates contract.
One question I have, Mr. Chairman. If Republic takes over Santec, can we give all of our legal responsibilities to Republic? And see, how much money would that make us a year that Mr. Stevens is making right now currently?
Say again?
If Republic does take over Santec, would they be agreeable to have to furnish a lawyer and they take care of all of our legal responsibilities? We don't have to have Mr. Stevens anymore. How much money would that save us